is uncensored and is for adults only. Mature or immature, doesn't matter.
Hi, we're your local high-speed internet and cable provider. Are you looking for a fast, reliable internet connection? A large selection of your favorite HD TV channels? With 24/7 access to the best customer support technicians? All at a fair price? Fuck you. You'll take what we give you. You'll have the option of choosing from several of our completely unwarranted rip-offs, including internet speeds up to 200 times slower than Korea at twice the price, TV packages with over 500 channels, 90% of which you can't view, and we guarantee a plethora of hidden fees. Then, our barely trained technicians will come to install your services somewhere between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. Knock once while you're in the shower, and promptly leave. And once we do finally get your service up and running, it'll be down and limping within 3 hours. Indefinitely. Why, you ask? Simple. We are part of what is called an oligopoly. It's like a monopoly, only legal. See, in closed-door meetings with 4 or 5 of the other major providers, we've secretly agreed not to have differing prices, allowing us to completely eliminate any competition and collectively raise our prices to optimum cockbag levels. Because we here at your local high-speed internet and cable provider don't believe in customer satisfaction. We believe in money. Pools of money. Looking for a better deal? You can oligobble down our balls. You're paying for it. Your local high-speed internet and cable provider. You won't like it, and there's no other option.
Hello, it's me. I've avoided you forever while consuming calories. I love donuts, mac and cheese. They say kale is antioxidants, but I'm anti-leafy greens.
Hello, can you save me? I'm in calisthenics dreaming about Netflix and Mickey D's. When I was younger, these jeans used to fit me, now my booty's got them bursting at the seams. There's more circumference to my gut and no gap between my thighs.
Hella cravings for some fries. I did one push-up and I cried. And my dudes up shaking every time that I lunge. And this gluten-free bread tastes just like a sponge.
Hello, pizza late at night. I keep saying just one more slice, and I feel so hungry. Breakfast, dinner, and lunch, and the ice cream truck is the only reason I run anymore. Hello, CrossFit fanatic. I know what you're gonna say. I'll get addicted once I'm at it, and I know you mean well. But if you shout at me just one more time, I might commence to snap. And
It's no secret that Zumba class is the last thing on my mind. Hello, stationary vibe. That's not what my body's crying. Emotional scarring. Every swap that I've done, and this veggie smoothie makes me wanna throw up.
Tech support. My name is Kunal. How may I be of assistance?
Yeah, hi. Your website logged me out. Now it won't take my password.
I can take care of that for you, sir. What site were you using?
Sticky Tits.
I'm sorry?
Sticky Tits. .jizz.
Okay, sir. And can I get your username?
Oh, my name's Mark.
Hi, Mark. I said your username.
Dr. Cochter.
Oh, is that a DR or is
It's
it...
spelled out.
And for security purposes, what was the name of your first pet?
Charlie, but that's not what I wrote down.
What did you write, sir?
I put, screw this question, I want to jerk it.
And we're good. Now, what video were you watching?
I had a bunch of different tabs open. I don't know.
Anything you can remember, sir.
So is this necessary?
Yes, sir. It'll really help us get your account back up and running.
Okay, it was a guy and a girl.
You're going to have to be a little more specific, sir.
It was a babysitter, and the guy was dressed like a giant baby, and he had her up against the wall, and he was slapping her
In the face?
No, in the butt. He was slapping her butt, and it rippled.
I'm sorry, it rippled?
Yes, it was a close up of her butt, and her butt rippled.
And was it around this butt ripple that you were logged off?
No, it was during the foot job. Is this being recorded?
For quality assurance, yes.
Okay, hi, who's that?
I'm a quality assurance representative.
Sir, I'm going to need a list of the search items that you used.
Well, I searched amateur,
And?
interracial,
And?
mother and daughter,
And?
fisting, gagging, and tent rape.
I'm sorry, that last one?
Yeah, it's short for tentacle rape. Look,
Sir, how often do you access our site?
I'm sorry, who is this?
I'm an account representative.
Okay, I go on once every couple of weeks.
That's not what my records are showing.
Then what did you ask me for?
All right, sir. I'm going to have to ask you to recreate the events leading up to the problem.
You mean do what I was doing right before?
Yes.
No.
Well, I can always delete your account.
Okay, alright, fine. Hold on. First, I emptied a bottle of lotion into my hand, belt around my neck, and nipple clamps. And while I was watching the video, I would whisper to myself, ooh, just like that, just like that. Now, do you have everything you need from me?
Please, sir. Go on.
And I was about 3 knuckles deep, up inside of my own...
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Who's that?
Kevin?
Okay, Kevin, what do you do? Yeah, okay, how many people are on this phone call right now?
Hi.
Hey.
How are ya?
Guilty.
What's up?
Okay, thank you. I'm getting off now.
Oh, no.
Come on, you're blue balling us.
Bye.
Tech support, my name is Kunal. How may I be of assistance?
I stumbled at 2 a.m. all drunk and full of smoke. My wife said I have had enough. That said I'm sick. Get out. So I stumbled down to Kelly's pub across the edge of town, and I told the boys my story, and we had another round. Oh, drink it, fight. Oh, drink it, fight. That might be a pretty girl. I'll sleep with her tonight. Yes, I'll drink it, fight.
studios in Southwest Florida, it's the Charles Richardson Show.
All right, how about that? Everybody is off mute. Everybody can go ahead and speak their mind. And Karen is on a full screen. She is completely on widescreen today. That is awesome. How you doing, Karen?
I'm all right.
Hey, coming through nice and clear, too. I like it. Eric, are we doing the same thing? You're back to your headset, so I'm wondering, how is the sound?
Mic check.
Nah, you were better before. Yeah. It's that goddamn headset. It really is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's that it does not have a good mic on it.
Okay.
So
mic check.
Do it again.
Mic check.
Somehow you're a little bit weaker. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm gonna work on that.
Yeah, work out, man. Lift some weights. What's going on, everybody? It's Friday, the 24th of June, 2022. We have a topic to cover today. Oh my God.
What, you want to talk about the NBA draft? Is that what you want to talk about?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the big topic everybody wants to talk about, is the goddamn NBA draft.
Okay.
Because I want to know which guy that came outside the United States actually went number one. Because honestly, that's like all the players are right now. There's no real NBA players that come in from the States anymore. It's all European, Russian. It's we're losing. Dude, we're losing. Next time we go to the freaking Olympics, man, we're done. It's over. But no, let's go ahead and not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and bring our guest of honor on. She is an author, a novel expert, and she's she's a very tuned into music too. So we'll go ahead and get her on there, and I'm going to go ahead and cross my fingers and toes that I do not mess up her name at all through the interview, because I've been known to do that a couple of times. It's Titania Thorne. I think I got it right that time. Did I get it right this time, Titania?
You sure did.
Yeah, I did it. Yes. Well, welcome to the show, everybody.
Thank you.
So, how you been so far? Obviously, I've been reading up on your website, and I see here some of these books going on. I don't know. I may have to take one into the bedroom and get a special toy out for some of these. I'm just saying. You know, it's yeah, it's kind of steamy. You ever see? No, Karen has that look at it. Karen, you ever went to a bookstore and you see like these the paperbacks there? Well, you had that look when I said that. One of these paperbacks where the guy's like, is chiseled, got that six pack, and the half naked woman is around him, like some type of cloth is around there, and they're like in this fantasy world. That's what it seems like. But I'm sure it's a lot more than that.
I've actually never read any of those, but I know what you're talking about.
I hear you. But yeah. So, Titania, why don't you go ahead real briefly, tell us about yourself, and obviously we got everything here we're going to promote, but go ahead and give us a brief explanation of who we have.
Yeah, so I've been writing since the age of 12. I finally took the leap this year to go through and self-publish my novels. So they are all done by me. Covers are done by hand through my knowledge that I have with digital art. I do all my formatting myself. So these are 100% handcrafted by me. I'm a mother of two. I'm part of the LGBT community, and I'm coming up on my 30th birthday. So I think that was kind of the other reason why I took the leap this year, is I wanted to officially be published before I hit 30, because it's been a lifelong dream.
Well, there you go. So, first off, number one, congratulations on getting published before 30. See, I was over here, hopefully, I'd be settled down by 30, but no, it took me another friggin' 10, 15 years. After that, it's like, okay, whatever. So, it is what it is. Actually, no, wait, take back. I'd be married 10 years next year. So, all right, it wasn't that bad. I'm 44 now, so whatever. 34.
Close.
I was close. I was 4 years off my goal. But
hey, you get married when you were ready. See, that's the important thing. when you were ready?
I was ready by the age of 25. Nobody wanted to be ready with me. That's the problem.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
I was ready to go ahead and use one of these sexy novels to perform. The hell with the Kama Sutra. I was ready to take one of these novels and make kids, like at the age of 24 and a half. I was ready. There was no more pull-out method. It's just, let's go. But no, nobody wanted it. So I call bullshit on it. Anyway, so let's
Ms. Thorne, you might have an idea for your next book.
I mean, well, the only thing he's got to remember is that these are geared towards the LGBT community, so they definitely are a specific taste. So all I'm going to say, Charles, is read with caution.
Yeah, that's understandable. That's understandable. Listen, I have not went ahead and went trans yet, and I'm going to start hitting on women as well, so it won't be women on women. So unfortunately, that's not in the forte, but I can still go ahead and act out a little bit here and there. I mean, I did do phone actor work for a couple of years, if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Eric doesn't know that, and I'm not going to go and divulge any further than that. Get that. It states on your website that you always try to go ahead and give a happy ending. And I'm not talking about that type of happy ending. I'm talking about, something where the story actually ends on a positive note. Has it ever crossed your mind to actually go into end the story basically as a cliffhanger on a downward strand, and then pick it up on another book?
So I've thought about it, but I'm such a perfectionist that it'll eat at me. So the way that I actually work my series is that each one is built around one particular couple, and then each book moves throughout the series. You see that couple, those characters pop back up throughout the series so that you can see what kind of happens after. So you'll still get more information as you traverse through the world, but each book is focused on a different couple. So it might be like their friends or things like that. So I always try to make sure that you're never left wondering, and you're never left going, that's it. I always want somebody to be satisfied by the end.
Is it a completely different story going to the next with the same characters, or is it a continuation of where the previous story left off, or does the story take place focusing on another character in the same realm?
So it's always going to be a little mix of both. So like my most recent series that I started was Razor's Edge, which is part of the Bubbling Cauldron series. So it focuses on one particular couple, and then the sequel that I'm working on right now, that's going to be book 2, it actually picks up a few months later, and it has to deal with a character that is introduced in the first book. So it's always going to be in the same realm, the same universe, and each one's going to build off of the other. So you're never going to be like, oh, wait, who's this person? But you can also read them out of order. So they'll make little cameos and everything. So it's not one of those things of like, oh, if you didn't read book number 1, you can't read book number 4 if that's what interests you.
Wow, so you can't skip around.
Different. Well, that's what I want, is that somebody that can skip around, because my goal is to have it be a little bit different each time. So maybe book 1 is too heavy for you because of the topics it covers, but you're interested in the story. Well, then you can pick up book 2, still have a gist of what's going on, and then kind of continue from there. So that was kind of my thought process with it, is that I know not every book is for every reader.
Well, yeah, of course. Obviously, you're not going to be able to please everybody. And I think I've learned that, more recently, unfortunately. I get a late bloomer here. It's you're not going to please everybody with everything. And, some of the things that have happened in the world today, it's like, you're not going to please everybody. But focusing on the LGBTQ community, how much are you focused on that particular community in itself? Like, are all the couples in there same sex? Are we looking at a little transgender action going on in there? What normally is the premise around your book? What type of couples are we looking at?
Right. Primarily, I prefer to write male pairings. I like female characters as side characters personally, because I feel like by doing the male pairing characters, we can show a little bit more of like a male person going through some of the internal struggles that we don't necessarily discuss. A lot of like the mental health issues that aren't discussed. So I want to give people kind of like a safe space to see that is something that happens. I will be honest, I haven't explored transgender because I don't have enough knowledge on it. And if I was going to write about it, I would want to do it justice. So that one hasn't really been on the agenda because I don't want to put out misinformation. Like I never want somebody to look at my book the way people look at 50 Shades of Grey in the BDSM community of this has a lot of misinformation. Don't follow this as like a rule of thumb. So if you're going to read my book, I want you walking away either feeling more informed but not misinformed.
So you say you focus on male pairing. So let me ask you this, obvious, and I'm just spitballing here. I assume you're female born and raised, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you use as research for? Do you ask your husband about it, or do you have some gay friends that you ask in regards to that? Where do you get your research?
So a lot of it is actually from friends, but also this is part of the author communities that I joined. Whenever I have specific questions, there are people that I can reach out to for that, and I'll do my own extensive research. But a lot of the main core of like the particular novels, like certain things that people face, are actually my own life experiences, maybe with a little bit of spin, a little bit of extra on them, but just about everything that I pull that is going to be that gut-wrenching moment or the way that somebody feels is actually how I have felt at some point or another. So I pull from real-life experience.
So are we saying, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, are we saying that you've experienced in the same-sex community fairly often?
I would definitely say so.
Okay.
Throughout, from the age of 16 onward, that was about when I fully accepted who I was in that community. Because back then, I know I say back then, and that wasn't that long ago, but I mean, even in high school when I was growing up, where I was growing up, it was mostly accepted. But I mean, kids will be kids. I watched ridicule happen. I watched people be assaulted simply for being who they were. So those are some of the experiences that I draw on, because even in today's age, we still see people completely against it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of where that stigma comes from is because, one, people don't know enough about things like that, and we just don't see those people like myself a lot of the times as human. We don't see human emotions behind it. So I feel like by personifying the struggles that people go through with their acceptance of who they are, it can help even somebody who's straight have a better understanding of the kind of struggles that somebody who may feel this way but doesn't want to because they grew up that, no, you shouldn't feel that way. That's where a lot of my stuff comes from.
So you're saying at the age of 16, that's where you started delving into going ahead with female and female, or at least you've experimented it. Now, did you accept yourself at that time at 16, or did you know beforehand and came to terms in reality at 16?
16 was the first real experience, and of course it had to be during the most awkward stage ever of during Truth or Dare with one of my friends. And that was
Truth or Dare pulls another one in.
It sure did, because at that age you're not willing to back down, and so it was something that I had thought about because I have family members who are part of that community, and it was things I had thought about in my head. But the way that I grew up, my father was all right with it, but my mother was not. She was one of those ones that would use the slurs and the very demeaning things. So when I figured it out at 16, I ignored it. And it actually was not until I met my now husband at about the age of 18, 19. And he started, it's fine. I understand. And we talked through a few more things and kind of got down into the nitty gritty details. And he helped me actually grow to be who I am today with accepting it of, if people don't like it, oh, well, it's not their flavor. That's okay. You like chocolate, I like vanilla or strawberry or whatever.
Did that have I'm sorry, go ahead, Eric.
No, I'm sorry. So you mentioned that you got married at 18 and you said you wanted to publish yourself before 30. So you got married very young.
I actually didn't get married till about 21. I met my husband when I was about 18, 19, but we were together we got married in 2013, and we have 2 boys, 7 and 3, and we have been together the entire time. So I have actually come very close to surpassing another goal of mine, which was to be married longer than my mother and father, because they divorced when I was the age of 12. And I'm actually very close to that point. And so I'm very proud of myself.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Because listen, maintaining marriage, and I don't care if it's same sex or opposite sex or whatever, maintaining marriage and living with somebody, it takes a strain. I mean, I'm over here looking at, I'm coming up on 9 years in November. I'm thinking, damn, I can't believe I've been with the same woman for 9 years. Or even more than that. So
we do the same thing. We're like, man, it's already been 10 years.
Damn,
because
I haven't gotten,
on the 21st.
I haven't gotten sick of you yet.
It's been 10 years that we've been together. We're like, this doesn't even feel like that.
Yeah, time goes by
quick. When you've got a spouse that's more like your friend, I was married for 15 years. When you've got somebody who you basically, are ride or die for, it's an amazing feeling. And even though things didn't work out with me and my ex-wife, doesn't necessarily mean one person was bad and the other person was good. Sometimes 2 great people don't necessarily make a great couple.
Right.
But if I could, as an old vet of the marriage game, there's a reason why it's defined as a couple. I used to be of the mindset that my mom, my dad, none of those people, my sisters, my siblings, anybody who I'm with, they walk on water and glow in the dark. I don't tell people bad stuff about my spouse. And the reason being, if you're throwing all of this negativity at your spouse and then you wind up getting back with them, now they're looking at you like...
tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, especially if they glow in the dark, then it's like, well, listen, you'll never lose them at night. That's
never lose them at night. But I didn't mean to get off topic.
Try to go ahead and tell them what try to tell them what radiation treatment they're in right now.
Chernobyl.
Christ.
At the rate that we're going,
yeah, right.
As a society, but that's a topic for another day. I don't want to get too far off topic, but those are some amazing goals that you've accomplished in such a short amount of time. When did you start writing? And we know when you got published, but when did you get your first book completed, and when did you think it was perfect enough for you to go and publish?
So if you're asking about first book, I've written quite a few, actually. I wrote books when I was 12 years old, all the way leading up through high school. My high school had what was known as a senior project. So we had to pick a career that we wanted and do like a 6-month-long project on it. And mine was actually involved me writing a full-length novel in that 6-month time frame. The first book that I wrote that officially has made it published was my novel, All Things to Ashes. It took me agonizing over it. I think I edited about at least 9 to 10 times. And even then, I still didn't... I'm one of those very, like I said, I'm a perfectionist, so I was still nitpicking things, and I actually had to get one of my colleagues to read through it, and she told me, she's like, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. It's as good as it's going to get. I was pretty much getting to the point where like, oh, well, should this be a comma or should it be a period? That nitpicky with it. So she finally pushed me over the edge. She's like, just publish it. It's ready. So my first actual novel was published this year on right the day before my birthday, actually, back in January. So,
wow. So literally, you right down to the last minute before hitting 30.
Pretty much.
Wow. I kind of want to delve back in there. I know Erica wanted to focus on the writing, but I kind of want to delve back because it does say here that you struggle with mental illness. I do the same. I'm seeking therapy over anger issues and depression and stuff like that. And you mentioned also that your parents divorced when you were 12. Was that part of the mental issues that you deal with now? And also, does coming out as bisexual and at 16, did that also contribute as that? Maybe did you get ridiculed or anything like that? As how did it all come about? Did you ever find out the root cause to it?
So it's actually kind of like a mismatch. I have quite a few different diagnoses. I have been formally diagnosed with PTSD from a sexual assault that I endured actually a few months before I met my husband. I've had depression on and off from the age of 12. Part of it was in part due to like where Eric was talking about, you don't talk down about your parents. I love my mother. I mean, she's my mother, but it was not ever a healthy relationship between her and I, and it probably never will be. So I have a lot of like depression and anxiety that stemmed from mental and emotional abuse that I endured as a child. So a lot of that is kind of where I feed into and am able to breathe life into these characters when they're going through these struggles, because I didn't actually come out when I was 16. I knew, but I also had an innate sense of fear of telling my mother. I knew my dad would understand, but I didn't get to see him as often. The way that I've always explained it is that to my mother, I was a chess piece on a board. So I was used as a means to hurt my father, however she could.
Wow.
It was just how she did. And so I didn't trust her with the information, and I didn't see my dad a whole lot. So I actually didn't come out until I think I was either like 20. I was 20 when I finally came out. It was like right before I married my husband, and I wasn't brave and like called all my friends or anything like that. And I was like, guess what? No, I literally did the like coward's way out, posted it on Facebook, and was like, haha, suckers, I'm hiding behind my screen. And my dad actually told me that he knew for a long time. He's like, I knew. It was obvious. And I was like, really, how? And he's like, you're my daughter.
Always. You know, and it's like, oh, you're my daughter. I know these things. I'm psychic like that. No. I mean, were you always like dressing up as like a tomboy, or are you just more masculine than when you went out? I mean, what really triggered it, do you think?
In all honesty, I've always referred to myself as a chameleon. I am one of those people that when I was in high school, I was the total like emo goth girl with the like really thick black eyeliner and the trip pants. So I could go all the way from like dark goth to the next day if I had a presentation in like a very formal dress with the heels and the nice makeup and the hair done in an updo. So I've always been very transformative, but I think it was just things that my dad noticed about me, like certain mannerisms, like when I thought he wasn't paying attention and, you know, me checking out a girl, and he probably noticed me staring too long, those kinds of things, because my dad and I we always joke that we do have a psychic link, because there will be times where, like, you know, he'll just be on my mind because I missed him. He's about 3,000 miles away from me at this point, and I'll just be thinking about him. He'll call me and he's like, what's wrong? Like, nothing's wrong. And he's like, I swear to God, I could hear you screaming, what's wrong? What are you mad about? I'm like, wow. Well, this happened. So we've always joked that we have a psychic link, because that seems to be the same way with me, that I can call him and be like, is everything okay? He's, yeah, why? I'm like, something just feels off. And we've never been able to explain it. Just, we always had that bond for a long time.
Yeah.
Hey,
we got
I'm sorry.
Titania Thorne is on with us here. She's an author and a writer. You can actually visit her website, TitaniaThorneNovels.com. So, Eric, I know you had a question. Go ahead, because I'm actually going to go ahead and get my next question lined up as well.
Okay, was just curious, and hopefully I'm not stealing any of Charles's thunder, but how influential was the pandemic with you go ahead and just shooting your shot for your goal?
To be honest, it really wasn't. I took the time I just had a story in my head. I found a meme one day that pretty much sums up my writing process, and that's that writer's block is when your imaginary friends don't want to talk to you anymore, because I will think of this story, it'll just pop in my head and it'll play like a movie, and then it'll just keep playing on repeat until I write it down. So that's been my process for as long as I can remember. So even when I get off work, whether it was before the pandemic or after or during, all of that, while my husband would play video games, I'd either be sitting in the chair reading, completely tuned out of the world, or I'd be writing something. And then there was just a interest from one of my colleagues that she kept kind of asking, like, well, what happens next? And so I finally got to the point where I had to knuckle down and actually finish it and give something that I was confident for somebody else to read. Because I had written fan fiction before, and I'd had people kind of read those, and they're like, oh my God, we can't wait for the next update. But this was someone whose opinion I highly valued. So when she came back to me, she's like, this is so good, I need to know how it ends. That was the point where I was like, okay, I guess it's time. And my husband was like, you can put them out there this way, because I did send it off to some publishers, and they're like, well, it's not for us. And I had some that they told me, they're like, I really enjoyed it, but it's just not what we're looking for right now. And I had they gave me like actual feedback on it. So they told me the things that they liked, the things that they didn't like, and everybody's going to have their own opinion. There were certain things that they wanted me to change that I just was not willing to, because that was how the story was. There was no, well, if I alter this, well, if I had made those alterations, it would have completely changed the story. So I just went ahead and said, you know what? It may not be for a publisher, but I can do it myself, so why not?
So you mentioned that you work as well as write. I see here in your bio, it's like you have actually a full-time job. You're a full-time student going for your bachelor's degree. So you got a lot on your plate. When you go ahead and finally have a chance to sit down and write, does it come to you because you're using your past experiences or trying to incorporate those? Does it just come to you naturally, or do you sometimes have a fear of writer's block?
So I am one of those people, like, I use music as a way to kind of get my creativeness flowing. So usually what will happen is my husband will load up his video game. He's a gamer nerd, just how he is. But I will usually have my computer in front of me, and usually my AirPods are like, boop, right in. And I actually have a few playlists that I'll cycle through. And then there will also be times where I'll find certain music that just scrolling through like Facebook or TikTok or anything like that, and the lyrics will almost kind of speak to me in a way. So then that will trigger the thought process for me, and then I just go. And my husband knows that, like, if he sees my fingers flying across that keyboard, that means do not disturb, because I might stab him with a fork.
That's kind of like how my wife is when I'm playing my PlayStation. She's over there doing her Cabbage Patch dolls, and it's like, just I'm in the zone. Or maybe she goes ahead and opens up the laptop and starts playing The Sims, and it's like, leave me alone. And actually, the song, some of the playlists actually are on here on your website. And here's one of them that I'm not going to play a lot of it because, Facebook likes to flag, but this is Citizen Soldier.
The surface, they refuse to see my heart in this mold that they have made.
So what shows Citizen Soldier? What does that tell you? Or what does that speak to you about?
So with Citizen Soldier, he was actually a group that I stumbled across on TikTok, and that boiled down to, for me, a lot of his music spoke to being unseen, and where that hit home for me and kind of got everything flowing was, I'm one of those people that, when they say, oh, like, you would never know they're depressed because they're sunny and they're happy and they joke and everything like that. I'm one of those people that I can shove it down as far down to where you would never know it, and then, like, lock myself in a bathroom and bawl my eyes out. Like, that's just how I work. It's, it's personal and everything like that. But it was about being unseen and that portrayal of having to be perfect and having to live up to somebody else's expectations. It was a big hurdle that I had to overcome as an adult, because my mother's voice still lingers in my head, telling me how imperfect I am.
Right.
And my husband, I love him to death, but he is definitely probably the first in line for the firing squad when it comes to my mother. When she calls my phone, he's like, and he has to walk out of the room.
Well, after hearing what you portrayed your mom doing, it's like, I'd probably be the same thing if I was on that end. It's like, don't you dare call my wife again, you dumb slut, and just hang up the phone. I mean, I would just go off on her. It's like, listen, some of this mental illness is coming from your toxic relationship with your daughter here, so just leave her the fuck alone. Get away. Obviously, you're no good to her. You don't support her in who she is. So, just go away. That's how you have to put it, I would think.
I mean, you're absolutely right. When I think the biggest turning point for me was part of the reason why I second guessed my writing was actually because my mother was consistently pushing that writing was not worth it. That there was no money in it. I needed to be a lawyer, or I needed to be a doctor, or something that was going to bring in the money. That's what it boiled down to, was money, 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 money. And it didn't matter that it was my passion or that that's what made me happy. And I think probably the most poignant moment in my life where I knew I had something as a writer and I just had to pursue it goes actually back to my 11th grade teacher. There was one day I was just writing one of my stories in her class, and I ended up forgetting the papers in her class, and she didn't know who it was that wrote them until she actually read through it and recognized the writing style. And she called me into her class, and she's like, hey, like, what is this? She's like, are you going to pursue this? Like, are you wanting to be an author? And she's like, because this is really good. And I was like, no, my mom said there's no money in it. She wants me to do something else. And she was like, does your mom know how good you are? And I was like, she's never read any of it. And I will never forget it. She called my mother and told my mother that she was going to have a parent-teacher conference. And my mom tried to dodge it, and she would not let her. She was like, no, you're coming into the school. You and I are speaking. And she actually took the papers and slammed them down on the desk in front of my mother and told her, read that and tell her she needs to quit. And I think that just kind of tilted my world on its axis, that I had something, because I never had anybody be that supportive. Like my dad was, but it's different when it's your family, because you're like, oh, well, you're supposed to be. But to have a teacher be like, no. Yeah, and after that, my mom read it, and she was like, oh, I didn't know you could write like this. I'm like, you never asked.
And you mentioned, it's different for your family to go ahead, oh, you're supposed to say that. Well, mommy's part of your family. Mommy didn't say that. Mommy's like, you need to get away from that. You need to go be a doctor, a lawyer. You need to go join the circus because there's money in that. Just whatever, anything but writing. But you faced obstacles, not only, your family divorce, your mom being so negative against you, publishing companies telling you, Do you still, at this moment, now that you are published, are you still doubting yourself in any way, shape, or form? Or do you have confidence upon confidence that you're going to be successful?
I'll be honest, any writer you ask, any writer suffers from crippling imposter syndrome. And what I mean by that is that's where you're sitting there going, oh my God, am I really writing this? Is this really me? Are people really going to like it? You will criticize yourself over every step, every hurdle, every sentence that you write. And it's one of those things where I think the best way summed it up is that every writer, the reason why books are so expensive is, one, because a lot goes into them, but two, you've got to think that like most writers might spend like 5 years on one book because they're busy staring at their screen yelling, I'm a fraud, because they don't believe that they really have any talent. So it's just, I don't think I will ever be confident in my writing, but at the same time, I feel like that's what's going to give me an edge, because then I'm never going to be satisfied until it's as perfect as I can get it. So that means I'm not ever going to put out an inferior piece of work. It's always going to be the best that I could do at that point in time.
Titania Thorne joins us here. Published here just earlier. Wait. The Indy 500's happening outside Eric's window.
Yeah, of course, they're a little early.
Yeah, they are, right?
They're a little early.
Supposed to wait till the break.
Coming towards the end of the show.
When you published yourself, now, what was here's the thing, too. It's a question. Say I'm a writer, and I'm going ahead, and I've gotten turned down. My mama says I suck, and all this other. How did you publish yourself? What things did you have to do? How many hoops did you have to jump through to get your own stuff published?
It actually wasn't as many hoops as I had thought. A lot of times it is very daunting. I'm self-published through Amazon right now. They have a setup where they will actually go through and you still get royalties, and it's still set up pretty much the same way that it would be through a regular publisher, but you have complete control. So they will have you go through and format the manuscript to fit the size book that you want it to be once it's fully published. They have it set up to where you can go through, create your own cover. They have all the tools and all the pieces there. You can go through, set your pricing and see, okay, well, if I price this book at this point, I'm only going to get this much in royalties. And it also allowed for me to enroll my novels in Kindle Unlimited. So that means that somebody that pays to have Kindle Unlimited on their Kindle, they're able to borrow the book for free, but I get royalties per each page read, which is really where most of my revenue comes from. But I'm okay with that too, because then that gets word of mouth out there of, hey, I got to read the book for free, but this was a really good author. You should check her out. And maybe that person doesn't have Kindle Unlimited, or they prefer to have the real book in their hands. So that's why I strive so hard with making sure that everything's as perfect as I can get it, all the way down to my covers. Because I want it to be that when somebody does hold that book, that it's as polished as I can make it as an individual.
So would you say it's actually easy to go ahead and publish yourself and you get the same benefits even if you went through a publisher? Or is there benefits to having a publishing company say, all right, we'll take you on?
I would say that the difference is going to be how much control you want over your novel, because a publisher, they can take you on and everything like that, but at that point, it's no longer yours anymore either. So then they are taking over all ownership rights of that novel. So if they want to change a character's name, if they don't like, the cover ideas that you're coming up with, if they don't like the premise that you've worked with, it becomes their property, and you have to work with them on that. The real bonus that comes from it, of course, is more often than not, you get a portion of the profits up front. So basically they'll project of, we expect, we'll sell 100,000 copies of your book, so we'll give you X amount of money up front as essentially a signing thing. And they'll do all your marketing and your promotions and stuff like that. It just really depends of what you're willing to sacrifice for what you're going to gain. Mine is a lot harder, one, because all my marketing materials are done myself. All my social promoting is done myself. So I definitely am fighting an uphill battle when it comes to marketing and promoting and getting my book out there. But it also left me the freedom to say, this is what I want my cover to look like. This is what I want my characters to do. This is how I want it to look and move forward. This is how many books I want to write on it. It gave me the freedom and the control that I wanted.
Yeah, so like having a publishing agency, obviously they're going to go ahead and tell you, all right, you work for us, now we're paying you X amount of money. We'll go ahead and publish and promote and all this, advertise your book, but you're taking on that responsibility. So you say, we don't need you anymore. I'll do it myself. Eric was going to chime in, and then after that, I'm going to go ahead and get to your series that you have, the Bubbling Cauldron series, and we'll talk about that here in a second.
Cool.
You mentioned about some of the changes that the publishers were trying to initiate. What sort of changes were they trying to do?
So one of the main publishers that had gotten back to me, they said that they loved All Things to Ashes, except for the fact that the two main characters towards a certain point they felt were too similar, and they were looking for what's known as a trope of opposites attract, or fire and ice, those kinds of things. And the thing is that the way that the story had come to me was essentially like the whole premise of that book was the little nerd that the jock used to wail on grew up to be a successful businessman and was now a lot more of the alpha male, just like the jock was. So you have these two alpha males fighting for dominance, but they had said that they wanted more of like an opposites kind of thing. And I didn't want to lose the premise of showing how somebody can take that anger and that pain and mold it into something and make something of themselves. So it was really, I didn't want to show how like, oh, he's still the same nerd and everything like that, because we know people change, and they just wanted it to be the two characters to be a lot more polar opposite. But that was my whole point of the story, was to have them be so similar, because that's what was causing them to butt heads as adults, is that they were both, bickering back and forth of who was essentially going to be who, and dealing with the fact that, the jock thought he was still going to be that same old nerd that he remembered that let him bully him and everything. But now he's finding out, no, this is a guy that will sooner slug him in the face and, destroy his whole life with his millions than anything else.
Got a comment there. Philip said that this lady is awesome. Thank you, Philip. I'm sure she appreciates that. Go ahead, Eric.
I'm sorry, one other thing. So you were doing all of the artwork too, as far as like the design of the cover, things of that nature. Is that all you?
Yes, that is all hand done. I have a iPad that I do all of it by hand. I make sure to search out for unlicensed images, to where, as far as like if it's a particular photographer that they are using that for licensing fees or things like that, I either get it through a membership with like Adobe for stock photos, those kinds of things, to where I have the rights to the image, or I actually go through and create the images myself. So everything is done and positioned by hand with my iPad and my iPad pen, or my pencil.
Now that's talent. That's talent.
Those are some very impressive like artwork that you have down there. So not only are you a talented author, but you also have a very vivid imagination as far as, the visual, the colors, the way that everything just kind of blends in, the light colors and the dark colors. So, man.
Yeah, she's got some talent right there. Karen, I'm seeing here, she's kind of like staring off into space. I don't know. I think Karen's a little bit timid, maybe, to chime in. Did you have any questions for Titania?
No, I did, and absolutely kudos to all your success, because that's absolutely fascinating, your story and what you partake in order to. I hope I don't lose power. We got a storm over here.
Oh, okay.
But I wanted to know, with you having the experiences in your community and writing and I appreciate the fact that you don't write about things that you don't have knowledge on. Do you think with, the LGBT community movement, and the reason I ask this is because I remember in high school really fighting for people, friends of mine that were afraid to come out because of the bullying and et cetera. It just wasn't done then. So I appreciated the movement when it began, but do you think with all the eccentric ways that and turns that the movement has taken, do you feel that it's hindered the community in any way?
So for me, it's one that we need to understand that these people and their aspects, they've always existed. They've always been there. It's just now more so that these people are being less afraid to be their authentic selves. So I think that we're seeing it move forward in such a way that, a lot of people are, oh, well, we didn't do that back in my day. You're right. You didn't, but that was because people were afraid of the repercussions. They were afraid of what would happen. Whereas now for the time being anyway, we have those protections that if somebody wants to, marry a woman, or they want to go through transgender reassignment surgery, any of those, they don't have to worry about the repercussions and all the secrecy and everything with it. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily hindered the movement. I would say that right now we're only 2 steps in to what could be 10 or 20 steps on the path of getting where we really need to be. because I remember in high school, I remember seeing, people assaulted in school, of just, punched because, well, they were gay, and who cares about the queer kid, that kind of thing. We still have schools that deny, people entry. Like if you're a lesbian woman and you identify more on the masculine side and you have the short cropped hair, if you want to wear a tux, they won't let you in. Or if you're a guy and you feel more comfortable in a dress, they won't let you in to prom. And I mean, those are the things that I want to kind of address with my novels, is that showing that acceptance is possible, and that there are people out there that do accept who you are at the core of your being. So whether you're a guy who, I've seen there for a while, I did makeup artistry, and I've seen straight men that can do better makeup than, drag queens, and it's phenomenal. And they're 100% straight, but they would be the same targets for, oh, you like to play in makeup, you must be gay. So I think that there's still a lot of stigma around what a gay person or a bisexual person looks like and presents themselves as, that we need to move past. And that's why a lot of my characters in my books, it's not one of those things where the second you read about the character, you're like, oh yeah, you can tell that's a gay man right there. It's more of like, well, I don't know. Maybe this character is going to be bisexual, that kind of thing. Because I have made it before where the characters are either bisexual or they are just inherently gay. It just kind of depends on what that character, as my imaginary friend, like I said, when they start talking, what they tell me they are. Usually it'll be just, it all clicks into place of, that this is going to be a bisexual character. This is their name. This is their story. And I think we still have a few more steps to go for our society to just see people that way.
Any other questions, Karen?
I just know here in Florida, we get a lot of eccentrics. What I would say on the eccentric side, and so I just wondered, because I do, I've gone to drag queen bingo because I have friends that do the drag queen bingo and host it and so on, and they feel like they're sometimes just take it a little bit too far, and then it comes back and they feel like it pushes them a step backwards into what their whole intent in society was in the first place.
Right. And I can definitely understand that feeling, because and I think where a lot of that portion comes from is, like, for instance, with everything, like where Charles was asking about the transgender characters, I've never personally dealt with any of the struggles that they do of, looking like a woman but being a man, or looking like a man and being a woman, where we had that whole thing of, oh, well, now this guy, because he disagrees with it, he's going to dress up in women's clothes to go prove a point of the woman's bathroom. And that, I feel, is more the kind of stuff that is setting the community back, is these people that are not really necessarily a part of the community, but are either A, trying to force their way in, or B, using their own agenda. Yes, that was better put. Yes.
It's okay, Karen. We wanted the finances too. Just real quickly before we go ahead and get to the Bubbling Cauldron series, real quick question, to go and kind of tag along with what Karen was mentioning. This day and age, now that you know what everybody's, there's been a lot of changes since you were 12, and things have kind of morphed into what they are now. Any advice to somebody that's scared to come out? Any advice to give them? Any kind of confidence that you would share, or a personal experience that you would have for them as some type of advice to be comfortable with who they are?
I would say that probably my biggest advice is that you don't owe anyone anything. Everybody always talks about, coming out and everything like that, but I have high hopes that one day there won't be this need to come out, that it'll just be the same as, when you introduce, I'm so-and-so, this is my husband, that it'll be the same for anybody that is part of the LGBT, that, this is my husband or this is my wife, and nobody will bat an eyelash. It'll just be, oh, okay, and we'll continue on with our lives. But definitely don't ever feel pressured into coming out, because if you feel pressured, it's going to be way more terrifying. You're going to be nervous and everything like that. But it's okay to stay in that space of only you knowing for as long as you need. I mean, some people may not feel safe enough while they're under their parents' roof, like I did, of coming out. If you're at that space, that's totally fine. When you have your freedom and you're living on your own and you want to scream it from the rooftops, do it. But do it based in your own time. Don't listen. I know we go to our friends for everything like that. Don't let them say, oh, well, you should come out. No, don't. If you don't, and furthermore, if there's not somebody that you would trust with your whole life, of essentially holding your life in their hands, if you're concerned that you would be outed before you're ready, don't tell those people, because it could be something as simple as a slip of the tongue of they could be having a conversation with somebody else, and then somebody overhears it, and then boom, it's out. So if you tell anybody, you need to be prepared that it's going to get out at some point. It may not even be intentional. It could just, like I said, be a slip of the tongue. They may not even realize that somebody was eavesdropping, and then it's out there. So if you're going to come out, you got to be prepared that it's going to come out. But if you're not ready, that's totally fine too.
Titania Thorne is on the show with us, a writer and author. She actually has a series that's, bubbling, I could say. I mean, we could go ahead and just say it. But first off, let's go ahead and you say you do your own artwork. Let's just go ahead and take a look at this. Razor's Edge. And obviously it's got the hot guy, a body I'll never have. Just great artwork altogether. This is all done by you, correct?
Yes, sir. From finding the correct font and getting it placed, to the blood spatter, the glow around him, even the retoning of the photo, every bit of placement is done by hand. So the little insignia with the cauldron, that was one that I located as a free-to-use stock photo and put in the words and kind of curved them around. All of it is done and resized by hand.
Now, this is one of many books. Now, this Bubbling Cauldron, this is the first book. Tell us about Micah in this novel.
So Micah is a bartender who is working at, which is where the Bubbling Cauldron comes in, at a bar known as the Cauldron. And he has been dealing with a lot of things internally. He is, at the time that we meet him, he is currently self-harming. So this book does come with some trigger warnings for those kind of moments, because I know that some people do get a little squeamish, or they can be triggering for those of us that have struggled with self-harming. But he just steps outside for a cigarette, and then here's this perfect stranger, and that's Dimitri, who just, he's kind of at that point where he's sworn off relationships. He's just going to focus on himself, that kind of thing. And then the other thing that Micah is dealing with is actually consistent nightmares. So these are daily nightmares to where he does not sleep pretty much hardly at all. And that's the whole reason why he works nights, is because, well, if you were a neighbor and you had to hear somebody screaming bloody murder at 3 a.m., you'd probably choke them out.
Oh, wow.
But then Dimitri just, kind of walks in and blows his world away to what he thought he knew and what it really is.
All right. And that's, like I said, we're the Bubbling Cauldron series, paranormal romance series with a unique twist. And just to kind of give everybody a preview, you said that you're in the middle of working on this book, which is Fangs Bared.
Yes, this will be the sequel.
Now, is this also with Micah in it as well, or are we talking a completely different cast?
So this is still going to be in Micah's realm. He actually does make a few appearances with things like that, but Fangs Bared is actually going to be stepping into one of the side characters from Razor's Edge. So in Razor's Edge, one of the characters who kind of helps helps Dimitri and Micah kind of get their bearings with everything that's going on between them and then in their lives, as well is the owner of the bar that Micah works at, and that is Aiden, and he owns the Cauldron. So this is actually heavily requested that it be Aiden's story next. So here we're going to get a peek into Aiden, and some of the other characters that come in will lead us into book 3 and so on.
All right, awesome.
Spinoff.
Yeah, it's like, kind of like we're waiting for the sequel of the first great movie that we had. Now we're waiting for the sequel of this awesome storyline. You can go ahead and visit Titania's website at TitaniaThornNovels.com. I knew I was going to screw it up one of them. It's a tongue twister for me. I'm from up north, so I got that thing going. So make sure you go ahead and visit. Now you could also visit her on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all with the same tagline, Titania Thorn at the end. So Facebook.com/Titania Thorn, and Instagram and Twitter, the hashtag is at that as well. Listen, we want to say thank you very much for taking over an hour of your time. We appreciate it. Hopefully you had a great time. Was there any last thing that you wanted to promote, or any last thing that you wanted to go ahead and tell our audience?
I just want to say thank you for having me. This has been a really good experience, and anytime you want me back, I'll be glad to come back and even just chat. I've been watching your show since I found out about it, in all honesty, so I look forward to seeing what more is coming. When I have updates of when book 2 will be released, it'll be all over every bit of my social media, so you can just kind of keep an eye out there, but I don't have a date yet. Hopefully soon.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely keep us in mind. And I know you started watching the show. It's not all real, trust me, and it's probably a lot of photoshopped, and Eric's probably whispering stuff like, hey, don't trust this.
Probably. But before you go, though, I want to say something. Your story is very impressive. How you've overcame anxieties, fear of rejection. It's a hell of a story, and you need to be extremely proud of yourself. And not only do I say this to you, but to the other folks that are out here, when it comes to your dreams, it is a sin to hide your talents. If somebody is telling you that, and I had actually got that piece of advice from my ex-wife, just real quick, really, really bad stuttering problem, but I always wanted to do some form of like podcasting or things like that. I always felt that I sounded weird. But she told me that it was a sin for me to hide my talents, and if you neglect to use your talents, it'll be taken away from you. So you've done something that like 98% of the people across the world have not done, and that's pursue your dream in spite of obstacles. So you really should commend yourself on all levels.
Absolutely. Eric, and Eric, you can take it from me, hosting a show for 7 years. If I can go ahead and botch names and still be aired, you can do that too. Just have faith, brother. Have faith.
I definitely do. But hey, we've taken up enough of your time. We know you've got, I don't know how many hours in your day. I only got 24.
She needs to go ahead and get back to writing. She's got a bachelor's degree. I'm sure she's probably late for her job. And at the same time, she's got a husband that probably is like, doesn't game 24/7. So she'd probably like to spend time with him as well. So yes, move on.
The 3-year-old, not to mention the kids too. So
and the kids too. That's right. You got to remember the kids. I totally forgot about the kids. But sometimes I wish I could figure out my mind. But anyway, it was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. And yes, keep us in tune with book 2. Definitely. Okay. Once again, Titania Thorn, everybody. And we're going to take a short break here. Got some tunes for you. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Grab a beer. We'll be right back after this.
there is something the matter with me. I just don't believe that something that makes such wonderful things could be bad. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm a girl who has everything? Look at my face, check out my chest. Wouldn't you say clamshell bras are the best? Looking around me, you'd think, sure, I could tap that. But as you know, I'm a merfolk, and so I'm a fish down below. You want great human looks? I've got half. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. I want to be like the people are. Not with scales, but with real genitalia. Rolling around between the, what do you call them? Oh, sheets. Flipping my fins, I can't get too far. Tons are required for nearly everything. Selling myself on the, what's that word again? Street. Up where they bend, up where they bone, up where they stay up at night all alone. I've never come, wish I could have a vagina. What would I give if I could live with a vibrator? What would I pay to spend a day warm with a cock? Bet you on land they'd understand that they don't fuck over their daughters. Wet young women, sick of nothing, ready to lay. I'm ready to do what the people do. What's your position and what's your name and what's gonorrhea and why is it? What's the word? Burn. When's it my turn? Wouldn't I love to fuck like they do above? Not celibate. Wish I could have a vagina.
Don't be a pussy. Call Charles now. 813-699-5353.
All right, we're back. Second hour right here. We're well into it. Here on the Charles Richardson Show, Karen, Eric, and Alyssa has joined us. Hi, Alyssa. Oh, hi.
Hi.
If I couldn't just go ahead and screw up a name, I had to screw up putting your mic on.
Apparently.
Yeah, right.
If you
813-69.
screwed up my name at this point, there's a problem.
Yeah. As long as I don't say the wrong name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
That would be very bad.
Oh, he did
has to.
once.
Yeah, Eric has to unmute his mic. I know he's moving his lips, but there we go.
No, she
David
just
said it
basically.
twice.
No, I'm sorry. She just basically said the same thing that I did. If you messed her name up now, man, there's consequences and repercussions when you get off the air.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
We've been together 10 years now. I think you should know my name by now.
Say my name, say my name. Don't ever forget or I'll slap the shit out of you.
Just thinking about that song. You stay out of my head, Charles.
I promise I will, or at least I'll attempt to. 813-699-5353. I think this next topic is probably going to take 40 minutes. I would like it not to, but let's go ahead and talk about it. The overturn of the constitutional right for abortions. So I know it's a touchy subject. It's really touchy. We have all of our own opinions, and I'm just going to go ahead and state for the record, this show shares and will not get pissed off at somebody for sharing their own fucking opinion. You have your own opinion that's different than mine. I'm not going to go ahead and jump down your throat, call you a Bible thumper, or ridicule you on air. I'm not going to ridicule you at all. period. But let's go ahead and talk about this. This apparently was something that was put in back in the 70s and now has been repealed. And thus, basically, it is no longer a constitutional right for women to have an abortion. Now it's up to the states. And according to what I'm hearing, half the states are banning it or making it really hard to get one. Now, what is your take on all this? Personally, I do believe in abortions to a point. I'm not a woman, and what I'm just going to say is just that. I'm not a woman, so I can't go ahead and speak on behalf of women, but I know this is pissing a lot of people off. I also see women there saying abortion's murder. So, I mean, it's
There's women on both sides.
Yeah, there is. There is. Let's go to the phones right here. Call from the 208